And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
What is happening, people? Joseph, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for firing things up.
Would you like to share what happened with the rest of the class, or?
Well, I got here 15 minutes ago, late from traffic, and then we've been sitting here as you get your Instagram
it was
thing set up.
Literally 3:20. But
okay.
Listen, who cares?
Not
That's,
9 minutes ago.
That's the great thing about being, essentially free. Free from the rat race.
That's true.
Freewheeling dudes. Able to do whatever the F we want.
And people still tune in. That's what it's all about.
Guys, if you're new to the broadcast, this is the Hair Loss Show, The Bald Truth. Been doing the show in one iteration or another for the past 26 years. I know. Most of you guys weren't even born when I started to do this. And yes, I know you're like, you've been doing this for so long. How come the hair loss? How come you're still bitching about the hair loss industry? Well, I'll tell you why. Did you know that 2/3 of men by the age of 35 will suffer with some degree of appreciable hair loss? Like, it'll change your appearance by the time they reach 35. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. 200,000 Americans wake up every day realizing for the first time when they look in the mirror, like, holy shit. Sorry, Joe. I'm losing my hair. And, and back in the day when I started, it was bad enough that people had access to the yellow pages, believe it or not, or the back of, the newspapers and the sports pages. And people and surgeons were taking out ads, and companies were making all types of claims, selling snake oils. That was bad. And the infomercials, the Helsinki formula and stuff that you guys have never heard about.
They've never even heard the yellow pages.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to write this book. I got it published. It did really well. Became an international bestseller. Back in the day, it's kind of like, first of all, don't buy the book. It's still selling. It's great. If you wanted to learn about the history of this industry and, the basics of hair transplant surgery before FUE and all that stuff, it's great. Or if you just want to keep it in your collection as a memento, then fine. I'm not here to sell any books. We've sold plenty. It's published in 5 languages. It's still in print after 26 years. But I digress. It was hard enough to try to do what I did back in the day, and then Joe entered, he got into the trenches. Sadly, he didn't find me before he got his hair transplant. I don't think I was doing my thing then. No. But now it is crazier than ever. I will say this. My job, if I want to keep a job, is evergreen. This industry is worse than it's ever been. The misinformation that we see online is absolutely insane. I've recently been putting a little more effort into my social media presence, my Instagram specifically. I'm not here to insult anybody. But I got to tell you, when everything is spelt out in a reel, and then I get comments like, well, that's not helpful. What do you want me to do? I got 90 seconds at most to give you guys information. How about just going down the page and learning more about what is already posted, or maybe Googling?
You've asked too much.
Some of the information that I'm discussing to kind of reinforce what I'm trying to put out there. If I write about rosemary, if I put something up about, the bullshit of rosemary oil, it's like, well, then what works then? What do you want? I'm 18 years old. You just want me to bald? Like, no, dummy. I didn't just bald. I got on medication. I made the right decisions, luckily. I looked at this industry with a jaundiced eye from a very young age, unlike Joseph. I didn't get effed up. What was that?
That's the new verb. You want me to bald?
Yeah. You want me to bald?
I like that. No, I don't want you to bald.
You want me to bald, brah?
Bald, bruh? You want me to bald, bruh?
B-R... What is it? B-R-A-H?
B-R-U-H, bruh.
B-R-U-H, sorry.
B-R-A-H, bruh.
Don't ask me to spell.
Bruh.
The whole thing is the whole thing is insane, honestly. But here's the good news. There are more people, at least on that platform, that seem to be listening, asking smart questions. And I'm not saying you're dumb people. I'm just saying, you can't expect someone to answer like really specific questions that takes a significant amount of time to explain and to frame and to provide you with the information that you need specifically. So that's what this show is about. Well before social media, this show was on the radio, and people actually would call the show, hey, Spence, I have a question. I read your book, or whatever. And we provide them with the truth. Nothing's changed except the way people find us now. Mm-hmm. The phone number, 888-659-3727. Feel free to call us. We're here to answer your questions. But I also want to thank everyone who's now getting more involved with my Instagram and following me. I noticed that the followers have grown for this industry as far as like the people who are educating people. It's pretty significant. Now, for everybody else who's essentially bullshitting you or just trying to get become an influencer or become relevant, I guess, on these platforms, for the most part, these are the bullshit artists. These are the people. Hold on. These are the people who essentially just regurgitate the bullshit that's been bandied about in this industry for 30 years. Essential oils, hanging upside down. I have to tell you, microneedling and derma rolling, guys, come on. I'm sorry. There is some evidence to showing that abrading your scalp could potentially reverse some of the miniaturization or, put vellus hairs into an anagen phase a little bit more rapidly. But you can't keep doing it. If you keep doing it, you're essentially destroying your scalp in time, and you're also affecting the hair follicles. And no one seems to understand, we don't go that deep. It's only 1.5 millimeters deep. That's bullshit. That's not the way it works. If you keep trying to artificially create collagen to turn over and grow, or whatever they call it. Is it grow, Joe? Stimulate collagen growth. You're doing that artificially. Sure. Your body really, and I know that no one understands this, really only has a certain amount of turnover. Cell turnover, collagen growth, turnover, anagen cycles that it can go through. So if you're artificially stimulating it on a regular basis, you are shortening the lifespan of not only your collagen, but your hair. I don't see why. It's such a simple concept. I don't see why no one understands that. But everyone in the industry is selling this bullshit to people. I see board-certified dermatologists who want to become influencers and who are becoming influencers promoting microneedling, not warning people. This is really a temporary thing. You could do it if you are, you want to activate PRP, if you want to just initially start doing this when you start topical medication, but you shouldn't really microneedle and then put medication on your scalp. Many reasons. Propylene glycol and alcohol can destroy tissue, especially on open wounds. Why isn't anyone telling you that? Why are dermatologists on TikTok and on Instagram saying this is what you should do? So honestly, that throws out the throws out the window the whole bullshit about being a board-certified dermatologist. I cannot stand these people who come online, and that's what they lead with. 5 steps to treat your hair loss from a board-certified dermatologist. You don't know shit, lady. You're guiding people in a very just typically snake oil-ish direction. In the end, and these are usually younger docs, maybe mid-30s, whatever it is, just trying to get presence. And what I mean by presence, a presence online, trying to grow their practice through bullshit. I've challenged people online. I try not to be nasty because you know what? I don't like to put out that toxicity. But I'm just like, hey, look, if this works, I tell you what. We will put you on the front page of the American Hair Loss Association. We'll promote whatever product or concoction you're selling out of your practice for free. Just show me the data. No one responds. 888-659-3727. We do have a full board, but I got to remember this guy's area code. But I know that one of our IHS accepted members wanted to call in. I think this is him. So let's take him first because I know that he doesn't have all day to wait online while we take other calls. Hey, Dr. Charles, is this you?
Yes, it is. How's it going, Spencer?
Hey, Doc, how you doing, man?
Hey, Dr.
Not
Charles.
bad.
Hey, do me a favor.
Hey,
Can you maybe speak into your microphone, not the speaker, because I can't really hear you well.
Is that better?
Much better.
Okay, no problem.
So what's happening, man? I know you contacted me. You said you wanted to discuss a really important issue, which I was like, yeah, I'm listening. This is happening all over the country, but it hasn't been as let's just say blatant as it is down South Florida. So why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, right now in Florida, there's some crazy stuff going on, and I don't know if we're just kind of leading the forefront of the craziness in this country, but. So I've had 2 kind of weird things happen in recently.
I'm gonna stop you for another sec, Doc. It sounds like you got a lot of echo. I don't know if you're like calling from your bathtub or what.
All right, hold on just one second. There's 1 minute here.
It's all right. Take your time. Take your time. I just want people to be able to hear you.
In the meantime, Spencer's going to be talking about his new derma rolling opportunities for you to subscribe to. For only $19.95 a month, you can get all the derma rolling tips that you could ever want.
I was considering doing an OnlyFans and allowing people to watch me do the comb over.
Yeah, comb over ASMR.
Yeah. I actually think there's enough people on there where I can make a couple of bucks.
Got to rearrange it.
They want to see what the hell's going on. They don't quite understand it. They're trying to figure out the puzzle, It's like, what is up? Hey, Dr. Charles, you there? I don't want to hang up on him because then he won't be able to get through.
Yes, of course.
All right, Glenn, you know what I'm going to do? Call back. I'll try to leave a line open. All right? Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Call back. I know that.
Hey, man, you're on the air. I could hear your computer in the background. Who's this?
Hey, this is Sid. Can you hear me?
I can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Turn your speaker down.
Mine?
Yes, yours.
Okay. Better?
Yeah. Hold on for 1 second. Hey, Dr. Charles, I see you're back on the line. I will take your call in a second. Sorry, we just had to kind of move on to the next call, but just hold on. We'll get to you in a sec. All right, caller, go ahead.
Hey, Spencer, how's it going?
All right, man. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
So this is Sid. I'm calling from Fort Lauderdale. It's really, really funny and ironic because I'm a patient of Dr. Charles.
You're kidding me.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm not. This is really weird because I just thought of calling tonight. I was like, I meant to call the show for a while. just a little background. The last
Well, I really hope
you,
you're planning on not saying terrible things about him while he's on the line.
No, not at all. Not at all. He's a great guy.
I'm just kidding.
He's a really great guy. The last time I called was 12 years ago, and I remember I'm 34 now, and I was just going through the first phase of hair loss, and I was so embarrassed. And I had I faked my name to call you in case anybody would recognize when I called in.
Well, I would say that's bizarre, but I could tell you that after I've been living in California for like 21 years or something. My barber still thinks my name is Jason. Okay? And that's a true story. And that's for other reasons. You know, I just want to get it. I just didn't want him to get involved with what I do and all that stuff. But go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. It's an embarrassing topic, but
well, it's not embarrassing. He's the guy that's able to, cut my hair and make me not look bald. He knows all about my issues, but I just don't. I didn't want at the time, especially because I was on radio in Los Angeles on a big station. I just didn't, want someone to say, "Hey, can you, pimp me out here and do this?" And I just kind of wanted to stay low key. And you know what? I never told him the truth. So, Lou, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. That's funny. But over the years, I got more comfortable with it. So long story short, Dr. Charles probably knows who I am, if you can recall. But I had a hair transplant a year and a half ago with Dr. Rahal. And I would say that I would say it's a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Okay. Is it the density that I thought I would get? No. But did it change my life? Yes. So essentially what Dr. Rahal did was the frontal portion, he redid my hairline and then also added a little bit more hair in areas that were thinning that he thought were gonna thin in the future. And it's kind of weird because my hair is slightly wavy, but it became more wavy in the front. So like I didn't expect that. And I don't know if he knew that was going to happen, or maybe the hair in the back was naturally more wavy than what was originally in the front. So my hair is a little bit different than it was originally, not in a terrible way. Like I get compliments, I'm happy with it, but that was the interesting part. And then it wasn't as dense as I would want it to be, but I'm not complaining. So then I was living in New York City at the time. So now I moved down here. I was a little worried about it, so I work close to Dr. Charles. So I had a consult with him. He didn't recommend any kind of touch-up work at this time. He says that I have more to lose than to gain.
You see that? That's what a real doctor would tell you.
Yeah, and so I'm doing exosomes with them. I have one more round to go. And I don't know if it's doing anything. I thought it was for a little bit, but we'll see. But yeah, I think that if I go I'll probably have another touch-up in the future, I'll probably go with him. I'm calling in to really see...
Yeah, dude, just spit it out, man, will you? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. I want to maintain my hair as long as possible and keep it going as long as possible. I was thinking about adding. I've been taking finasteride for a really long time, for 15 years. I was thinking about adding dutasteride once a week. Do you guys? What do you guys think about that?
Well, here's my number one question: are you losing ground currently? Have you noticed a shed? Has anything really changed?
It's like week by week. Like 1 week I feel like I am. 1 week I feel like I'm not.
How about this week?
And so
this week you feel like you are?
Yesterday was bad. Yesterday was bad, so I'm calling in today.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
That's
if it's not, and again, we're not physicians, but if it's not consistent, meaning that you don't feel like you're really losing ground, maybe you're going through a little bit of a shed. You want to watch and wait, because once you add something to your regimen, you can F everything up. Mm-hmm. My whole thing is, and what I've done over the years, is I've slowly upped my dosage, or I've taken my dose. I do intermittent therapy with finasteride, right? Again, not a doctor. This was my call. And when I started to see a little bit of retrograde or maybe aged alopecia as I got into my mid-50s a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my dose a little bit closer together, instead of doing it once a week or so, maybe every 4 or 5 days. I felt that it made a difference and it kind of improved things. Again, anecdotal. But I think it's probably best to talk to your doctor. You could talk to Dr. Charles and, maybe increasing the dose a little bit of finasteride instead of jumping on dutasteride if you really need to do something. Otherwise, I would just wait. Because even by upping the dosage, you can screw yourself up. I mean, if it's not really significant right now, you're not seeing a major change, just some shedding, that could just dissipate. And you don't want to screw with what you have. You have a good thing going, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. For someone that's suffering from hair loss, it's not forever. So you get scared, especially because it's more diffuse in the back and the crown area. So if I wanted to get a hair transplant, then I'm worried about a shedding phase and losing what I already have. So I just want to try to keep it as long as possible.
Those are all possibilities, and you're still pretty young. And I would wait, man. That's my advice. Joe could chime in quickly before I know that Dr. Charles is on hold.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I just wanted to ask that question, if you've heard any bad things about that, like once a week dutasteride.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I have heard bad things. I've also heard, I would say innocuous things. Like people don't even know if it's helping them. I'm not a big fan of stacking. Now, the hair loss bros may think differently, and God bless them, but I'm not a big fan of stacking 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. I don't know how Joe thinks.
I think I'm not a fan of it either, but I also think that if you're in a position where you want to try and improve things as much as possible, I wouldn't really add any sort of additional DHT inhibitor. I would either consider upping my dose of what I'm taking, finasteride, or...
You're going to say oral minoxidil, aren't you?
Or...
I do minoxidil. I don't do oral minoxidil.
But I would suggest considering oral minoxidil because it's more effective than topical. It works completely differently. So, I don't see the benefit of once a week adding dutasteride. You're already reducing your DHT levels with finasteride. It is more in the longer half life and yada yada yada. But I don't see that really being a benefit. I don't know of a whole lot of guys that are saying that they're doing that and they're seeing a benefit themselves. I'd up the dose, which I've done before myself, and consider a different modality in the form of oral minoxidil. That's what I'd consider. But ultimately, if you're not seeing any sort of, if you don't think you're actually losing ground consistently, I mean, where you go for a month and you're like every day, shit, I'm losing my hair, then I wouldn't change anything.
Okay. Got it.
And you could consider prayer as well, man.
There is that.
I do.
There is that.
Dude, I still pray. I still do that. Listen, I started at 21, okay? This has been a lifelong battle to save every hair. Trump the early years, look, whatever. It is what it is. This is what I deal with, and I'm good with it. So I understand what you're dealing with. And you're young, and you're on finasteride, and I have a feeling that I don't know, and I don't have a crystal ball, but it doesn't sound like you're going through anything dramatic at this point. All right, man?
Okay.
All right. Good luck.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. See you.
888-659-3727. I was going to kind of pipe Dr. Charles in with this guy, but I kind of wanted to hear what this guy had to say. Like I was kind of wondering, okay, why did he go to Rahal after Glenn? Because Glenn's so good at what he does. Now I realized he moved, and now he's going to be Dr. Charles's patient again. Let's see. I think this is Dr. Charles. Hey, Doc, is that you?
Yes, it is. How's it going, guys?
Okay, man. So isn't that a coincidence? One of your patients called in.
Yeah, I was listening. I think I know who that is because he came to visit me recently when he moved back from New York, and I understood that he wanted to go somewhere close. Obviously Toronto. I think Rahul's in Toronto, I believe.
Yeah, he could drive there.
He's closer, and yeah, exactly. So, and sometimes people want to try somewhere else. I have no issues with that. Especially if they weren't unhappy with the results. And he obviously was coming back to my office to see me, so he wanted my opinion again.
Absolutely.
As far as really quickly chiming in about his situation, I don't know if adding dutasteride once a week would really do much. I mean, I think that one of the other two possibilities would be to either try oral minoxidil or try and do a combination, add topical finasteride.
Interesting.
The only thing about the topical finasteride is I don't really think there's enough data out there that shows whether or not it's nearly as effective as oral.
I'm going to be a little less diplomatic. There's no real data.
Well, no, there is none. There is none yet.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a new thing. It's only they've been only doing like a year or two, so there's really no data out there at all. And realistically, anything topical, you're not going to get as much. So the problem with anything topical is how much you're actually getting in your scalp. How much is penetrating the scalp and getting down to the hair follicle? Probably very little. That's why guys who are taking oral finasteride that are having side effects, and they switch over to topical finasteride, they're not having the side effects because they're probably not getting very much finasteride.
Yeah, that's it.
And mentally, it might also be thinking that I'm not taking it orally, so...
Well, I was going to ask you that, and we can get into what you wanted to discuss if you have some time, but I think this is important now that we have a professional on besides, Joe Tillman. Now that we have a doctor on, I think that, a lot of shit that we get is the fact that we're very honest about finasteride use, and my thoughts on finasteride, the fact that I've been on it for about 30 years. All these kids are so frightened about everything from gynecomastia, which can happen, to not being able to maintain muscle mass. Obviously, the erectile dysfunction thing is huge. Post-finasteride syndrome, which still hasn't been – there's no data actually showing that there's a real causal effect. But except for something came out not too long ago that Merck may have suppressed some information about one or two of their patients in the clinical trials complaining of side effects after they discontinued use, and then they lost track of them. But that could be psychosomatic as well. But you've been prescribing this. I mean, I was on it before I met you. Yeah. So in your practice, what are you seeing, like in the reality, as far as the long-term use, the guys who you prescribed it to before all of the mass hysteria came out? Were they doing better than the younger patients, or are your younger patients just like, all right, doc, I trust you, and they're doing well?
I think a little bit of both. I think, unfortunately, with the internet and the way the media is now, I think there's more focus on some of the potential negative effects. And sometimes the more people know of the possibilities, the more it gets in their head.
Of course.
I mean, I've had very few patients over the years complain of any side effects. Okay, I think that some have been lowered libido, sex drive. Maybe a couple, maybe one or two with like a little weight gain or gynecomastia or just depression or just not feeling right. I mean, we're talking maybe like 10 patients out of thousands.
Right. Yeah, I know. No one believes me.
I mean, there is. See, but you can't say that anyone who complains of side effects it's all in their head and it's
no
bullcrap.
No, I agree.
Because the example I use is like you can give 100 kids Benadryl to go to bed. 2 of them are going to start bouncing off the walls.
Yes. Yeah.
There's always going to be 1 or 2 out of every 100 that are going to take the same medication. They're going to have a completely different reaction than most other people.
Well, what I like to tell people when people ask me whether through Instagram or on the show, I say, look, even if you tripled the current values or the values of the adverse side effects that were provided in clinical trials or quadruple them, it's still, 90% of the guys aren't going to suffer with these adverse side effects.
Right. And my thought is that if you're really going to have a side effect, you're going to know in the first month or 2.
I agree.
I mean, these guys that are complaining about using it for years and then all of a sudden getting side effects, to me that's trying to get bought out by some expensive pharmaceutical company to go away and shut up.
Yeah.
That's not accepting the fact they're getting old That's where that comes from.
Look, Glenn, I've been on drug for 30 years.
They got 15 years older.
I've been on drug for 30 years. I have guys who actually are like, oh, yeah, you probably have no muscle mass, stuff like that. I mean, you've met me in person. I'm pretty lean for the most. I mean, I've been fat, but I'm pretty lean now. I've been able to keep a lot of muscle mass. I still, I'm pretty muscular and in good shape. And I'm almost 60 years old.
Right. Oh, yeah. And then there's a lot of other things you can do also just with aging, to help with muscle mass. There's peptides now, and there's all kind of other therapies out there that are available now that can really help with people that are working out and they're just having problems getting muscle mass as they're getting a little bit older. So there's lots of other healthy ways to live your life and take the medications to prevent certain things that you don't want happening to your body as you get older.
Well, I just wanted the listeners to hear that because, and just so everyone knows, we have no skin in the game. Honestly, no. if a hair transplant doctor says, you know what, finasteride's not for you, that means they're probably going to get another 1 or 2 hair transplants guaranteed out of a patient.
And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of pills.
Yeah.
Any kind of medications.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking to some young guy who's 34 years old, I'm like, but I'm not 34 years old losing my hair.
Right.
So it's easy for me to say, oh, I wouldn't take pills. But I'm not even a big fan of prescribing pills to someone unless I think there's a clear benefit. For example, I had a patient today, a gentleman who was wearing a hair system for he's 55 years old. He's been wearing it since he was 40 years old. He's tired of it. And we're talking about switching over to a hair transplant. He happened to have very good donor left, which was unusual. Usually they destroy that too.
Yeah.
But he wanted to know about the finasteride, and when he picked up his hair system, I could see the hair loss was it was already like stage 7. I'm like, I don't think there's a benefit for you. I mean, I don't want. You pretty much lost all the hair you're gonna lose. You've been losing since you were 30 years old. You kind of burnt through that already, and there's really nothing to salvage. I don't see the necessity of taking a preventative medication. He was already significant stage hair loss.
Well, it's interesting. If he's already 55 and he still has strong donor at 55 without miniaturization and doesn't look like there's any retrograde, then yeah, why get on the medication? But I do know, and you've seen this yourself in your practice, I'm sure, where a guy can come in and they have, some miniaturization, significant per square centimeter on the back of their donor, and then they're on the drug for a year, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this really reversed the process. So I think maybe for some guys it's worth it, and that's why they need to see an expert like you.
Potentially, and maybe in the donor, and especially in the crown, where it could where some of the hair loss is maybe more recent, maybe in the last few years where the hair loss is, you could maybe potentially shrink the area that needed the transplant also.
Right.
Around the fringes, you could kind of strengthen those areas. Areas that were thinking about falling out of those hairs were getting miniaturized, you could maybe reverse that process with it. So I'm not saying anyone that age is not worth it.
No, but this particular patient, you were able to say, look, don't take it.
Stage 8 for 10, 15 years already.
Yeah.
And it's got tiny donor, and it's like, I'm going to take Propecia, thinks that finasteride is going to help you right now.
Yeah.
Not.
No.
Not worth it.
Yeah, no,
there has to be enough benefit to prescribe a medication to somebody.
I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, you got to be able to tell people, like, look, if you want me to put give you a forelock and give you some hair and frame your face, okay. But if your heart is set on a full head of hair, you don't have the donor for it. The math doesn't add up. Don't let anybody talk you into doing that. You're going to end up with scars. You're going to spend a bunch of money. The worst thing any doctor could hear is like, I wish I would have done nothing.
I think
that the way it was.
That could be a good segue into what you wanted to speak about originally, because I can guarantee you that. I can't guarantee it, but I'm assuming that the group that is now practicing close to your practice wouldn't have that same, let's just say, ethical stance.
No, they're doing FUE on every single patient, even if you have thin, wispy hair that's already see-through in the back. They're still telling you you're a good candidate for FUE. I mean, that's another whole part of this is, certain doctors that only offer FUE, which is fine. I don't have a problem with clinics that only offer FUE, but I think if that's the way you're going to run your practice, you have to have the I don't want to say the balls, or at least the honesty, the decency to tell patients who you know in your heart are not good candidates for the type of surgery you perform, that if they really want to try some, they should either maybe take a look at around other clinics that offer maybe a different type of procedure.
Well, that's what we tell, especially the newer members, the younger guys who we're bringing on to the IHRS. Now, we brought on a couple of younger guys, and I have January, we're probably going to bring on some more. I mean, we've been going through the applications, and, there's there's two younger guys who decided to incorporate strip into the infrastructure of their practice, and because they believe, that to be a quality hair transplant clinic and a surgeon, you have to be able to offer as many tools as possible, and have many tools in your toolbox as possible.
Yeah.
But the other guys, I'm like, listen, you have to be able to refer patients who need FUT, who will benefit more from FUT, to another IHRS surgeon. And they've essentially signed a document saying, yeah, they would. Now, can I guarantee it? No, I can't guarantee it.
Right.
I don't know if this guy needs to make his Mercedes payment, and he's running short this month and he needs that surgery, but I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping they're going to be honest. And I think that there are still some honest surgeons. Sadly, it's a handful.
Yeah, it's getting less and less, and it's the more people are doing it, the more competition there is, and undercutting prices, and it gets crazy.
Well, it's crazy, but again, I'm going to repeat myself. For any IHRS members who are listening, that's why we created what we created, so that you guys could, that the patients could really understand the differences in physicians, and that physicians can actually leverage this in their practice. Say, look, no matter what you do, just make sure they've been accepted into the IHRS. I don't care if you come to me. Just, this is your starting place. Do your research from here.
Yeah, we offer that information. And
Yeah.
I have to say, there's a handful of doctors in South Florida where I'm at that only do FUT. And they have patients who come in that really, they can tell have their heart set on FUE, small area, young guy wearing kind of a buzz cut already, and I'll get referrals for FUE from other hair transplant clinics that only offer FUT.
That's great.
So there are some doctors out there that try and actually do the right thing.
But in short, and before we take another call, I want you to talk. So exactly what's happening? Like you had explained to me that it's actually a Turkish clinic that opened
we all
up.
know about what's going on in Turkey, and everyone's reading online about all these hair transplants that are going on in Turkey, and the number of hair transplants going on in Turkey on a daily basis is beyond what anyone can even imagine. I mean, if you go through the airport there, you will see 50 to 100 people a day with bandages on their head traveling to either the States or Europe, somewhere in and out of Istanbul.
Dr. Charles, if I just decided to switch the IHRS to IHRS Turkey and took, I don't know, not even a quarter of the applicants, and just said, "Screw it, this is my way out. This is my, this is my retirement."
You can do it.
Well, I could easily bring on. It would seem selective if I brought on 500 clinics.
Yeah,
it would seem selective.
Insane.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a Turkish gentleman here that's either from here or has dual citizenship or happens to live in Florida. I'm not sure of the details, but he's not a non-doctor. And he decided he was going to open up a Turkish hair transplant clinic here in South Florida, and then down in the Miami area. And even when you call there, they tell you that there's they have a licensed physician, but the techs are all trained in Turkey. And I've had some patients that have come in after having surgery there. I've had some patients who we did a consultation in my office and said, "Oh, I decided to have surgery down there," and it's basically 35 to 4,000 grafts for $6,000. Everyone's the same. Everybody's the same.
Yeah.
And I had one patient recently who came to see me afterward. He did a consultation with me. Obviously, my prices are more than that, and he got talked into going down there. And he actually wanted my opinion as to how the surgery went. He came in like about 6 days after the surgery. And I looked at his head, and obviously I'm not going to sit there and count, but it looked like well over 3,000 holes were made throughout the donor. They were all the way down to the nape of the neck. This is a young 28-year-old guy, and they made FUE extraction sites all the way to the top of the crown, all the way around the sides, in front of the ears, the temple area. I mean, absolutely hammered.
It's amazing.
And it looked like there might have been maybe 2,000 grafts that were actually placed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely, it's unbelievable.
So my concern is, and I've been dealing with competition, much less expensive competition, my whole career down here in Florida, and that doesn't bother me. I can live with that as long as they're doing a decent job. It's the harm that's being done to patients, and these young guys don't realize that, what they have on their head, every person has on their head, is like a bank account, and it's got hair follicles in it. And you're born with a certain amount, and you can only make withdrawals from this account. You can't make deposits.
I love that analogy.
So what's happening to these young guys is they're hammering the donor area. And most likely this young guy's going to lose more hair over the next 3 to 5 years or whatever. He's going to want to do some more. There's always that possibility. I mean, hopefully not, but that's a strong likelihood in what's going on in our
I think
field.
the guy, he may be listening, so you want to make him feel good, but I would say that it's basically 100% chance that he's going to need more hair. He's not
very high likelihood that you're going to need more at some point. Usually it doesn't just stop at 28.
Yeah.
So and then so they're going to just run out of resources. And they're making all the holes to make it look like the work was done in case someone goes home and counts, I guess. But they're just really destroying people's donor. Yeah. And the people are getting some hair growth because there was some grass placed. It's not like no hair's replaced, but they're not getting nearly what they thought they were buying and paying for. So in reality, they were paying $6,000 for 2,000 grafts.
Right.
Now it's half of what they really thought, so it's not even that great of a deal anyways, or it's a lot closer to some of the other pricing clinics.
That's an interesting bait and switch, and they're willing to actually potentially disfigure people for the bait and switch and just make holes in their heads.
But they can just claim that the grass replaced and they just didn't grow. We can't guarantee growth.
No, absolutely. And the opposite actually occurs. The opposite occurs in some clinics where in Turkey and in India and in places like that. The people who are involved in cosmetic surgery tourism, where they are actually placing 4,000 or 5,000 grafts, but they're doing it. They don't know how to handle the grafts. Grafts are being mishandled. They're being jammed into recipient sites. There's a huge transaction rate. So even if there's another reason why they implant big numbers besides, at a fixed cost, because they want it to look like they have this tremendous growth. I would say a minimum of 20% of the grafts are not growing or not taking, sometimes higher in these large cases these kids are having.
Higher.
Yeah, and they're still like, okay, well, my hair grew. This is what it's supposed to look like, and they have no idea. They just threw away their precious donor.
Because almost all the young guys, I have to admit, I've been looking at Turkey, and it's just part of our situation right now. And I try and explain to them, listen, I know the thought of getting all this fixed, this did not happen to you overnight, and sometimes you just can't fix it overnight. So if you want to do it right and make sure you get as much value out of your donor area as possible, you got to do it right. You can't kill it. You can't knock it all out in one shot. I mean, you can try and do some bigger cases at 3,000. I mean, I'm not saying, and I'll do 3,000 or 3,200. I mean, only people that got first timers who got really good donor.
Yeah.
Realistically, that's all you can get, because I don't want to take from the nape of the neck, and I don't want to take it too high in a young guy where that hair is kind of programmed to fall later. There's a sweet zone. There's no fly zone.
Look, man, when I started this,
right into.
I was pretty young when I got into the industry and published. I was young, right? So I had access to everybody, and I didn't have to continue to paint my head or have a higher hairline than I want and kind of have to wear hairspray. I could have gone in and had a transplant. And, it's possible it would have worked out. But the truth is, if I would have had something that was relatively aggressive, if I decided to at the time, I do have a little retrograde now. Things have changed. At this stage of my life, some of the grafts would have been miniaturized, even with finasteride. For me, I made a tremendous, I think a great decision. But a lot of these guys aren't genetically, as I say, lucky. They don't respond as well to medication as I have, and they're effed. They're done. That hair that was transplanted, even if it looks great, say 100% grew, since only maybe a third is taken out of the sweet spot, the rest will miniaturize. If all stars aren't aligned, and they don't do well on medication, that transplanted hair will miniaturize just like the hair they lost before. And they're going to be left with nothing but scars in the back of their head, thinning hair, and their dicks in their hands. And they don't even realize it yet.
It's scary. I mean, I understand that, the economy and money is just
Spencer,
a real,
camera.
Okay.
Money is just really plays heavily in people's lives, and they're looking to do anything they can to save money. But I just want to put a shout out to a lot of these young guys out there that are thinking about Turkey. I mean, there are some decent clinics there, and I've seen some decent results come from Turkey. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything involved with Turkey is bad news. I didn't say that.
Look, we have 4 or 5 doctors who are part of the IHS, but I have to tell you, they're not the cheaper ones. They charge a reasonable price for their service based on their location.
Now, things are less expensive even for those guys because the rent's cheaper, the economy's cheaper, their money's worth nothing. Our money's worth so much more over there. Right. I get all that. And as long as people are doing good work, I'm okay with it. I pray that when someone goes somewhere else, they get good work, because the bad work is what gives everybody a bad name. All the doctors, it just gives our industry a bad name.
Well, here's the thing, and I just want your assessment on this, because I'm seeing it now. You're seeing patients come into your door every day. I mean, I kind of have access to, I guess, a wide range of patients from all over the world who send us images, things like that. This is what I'm seeing. The guys that this cosmetic surgery tourism really started to take hold maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm seeing the guys who had these massive surgeries, young guys who had it back then. They are now coming back. They're unrepairable, and they don't realize. And they're only 30 years old now, or 32, and they feel that their lives are over. But you can't tell this to a 24-year-old. They don't want to listen, and they want to shoot the messenger. I get so much shit on Instagram for telling the truth. It's unbelievable. But there's going to be a new normal. And I have to say, guys like you, Doc, are going to have, I'd say, endless opportunities to, you're not going to be able to repair them completely, but to do repair work, because there's going to be so much needed.
I do quite a bit of that. I mean, when I first started, I was doing a ton of that from like the old plugs that were done here in the States. But now it's repair work from some of the really cheapy, inexpensive clinics here in town that do really bad work, or people that are going overseas and getting it done really inexpensively at a clinic that's not great and the work's not great and it needs fixing and tweaking and all kind of other stuff.
Look, I live, you know where I live, so I in this particular place. I mean, there are a couple of billionaires. Okay, so there's one guy, and I tell the story because it's just crazy to me. He didn't go to Turkey because he needed to save money. He was really under the belief that the Turkish hair transplant was somehow superior to having a hair transplant here in Beverly Hills or wherever. This guy drives a Bugatti, one of his cars. So I'm parking my car. He happens to park next to me, and I see him get out of his car, and I'm like, that's the first thing that I see. I'm like, oh my God. This guy just got he got a Turkish hair transplant. And I knew he was going to ask me what I thought. I knew it. I was trying to avoid him. Like, I'm putting my gym bag up, whatever. Just, going back into the car, making a move. I'm looking for shit. So then he asked me. And while I wasn't cruel, I was just like, why didn't you contact me first, man? You know what I do for a living. And he didn't know what to say. He can't. This guy's unrepairable. Now, luckily, he's a little older, and he still has a decent amount of hair, and he's on finasteride. But you can see the 2 and 3 hair grafts from a mile away. It looks horrendous.
Jesus, yeah.
So
well, there's one other. Just on a quick note, So another crazy thing that just recently. So I have a colleague of mine locally who I'm friends with, and he's about an hour away from me. And he had a tech that he had for many years who left his practice and went out and was doing work at some different clinics on a part-time basis, and I used her a few times, young lady.
Yeah.
Very good tech, very high-quality tech, really knew what she was doing. But I had a patient of mine call me, a relatively wealthy guy from Palm Beach, and he said, Doc, I just want to kind of run something by you. I've been to your clinic twice already. I'm thinking about coming back a third time. But I have a buddy of mine who I ran into recently, and he just had a hair transplant. And I asked him, I said, where did you have the hair transplant done? He said, it was some young nurse or technician. They come to the house and do it. And I said, what? He said, yeah. And my patient's friend said that a couple of his buddies also had this done. And they thought they had the girl's name. We don't know if she used the real name. There was only 2 techs. It was 2 people. And
wow.
I ran it by this other doctor who I thought it was a tech that worked for both of us at one point. It's been years since that she's worked for either one of us. And obviously she denied it. And this is a relatively young tech who recently got married and had a kid. And the other doctor who I consulted with about this is a very ethical doctor. And I know that he's been on like the ethics committee of the ISHRS. And he's really into the whole politics of everything. He's a real straight shooter.
Well, that's actually frightening, but it gave me an idea. We should get some of these mobile trucks and just go, make it easy for people.
That would be one thing.
Yeah.
Because that would be at least a clean surgical suite set up, and if there was a doctor there, I mean, that's a thought.
Yeah.
But
all right, give me a call.
I'm going to do that. No. But obviously this person adamantly denied it because he said, listen, as much as I know you and you used to work for me, and I would never like to cause harm. If you're doing this, you're going to end up in jail. So I don't know. I know you're telling me you're not, but if this is any truth to this at all, you better stop because you're going to end up in jail. It's a felony. You're not a doctor, and people are not doctors should not be doing surgery.
Well, I can tell you that one of the biggest clinics here, one of the biggest FUE clinics here that advertises everywhere, including on local talk radio. I'm not going to name who promotes them and claims that he had a good surgery from them. But there may be a doctor involved somewhere, but it's owned by a technician who's a businessman. And the majority, if not all of the surgery, is completely tech-driven. And that is here in Los Angeles.
Yep.
So
and
that's the way it is.
It was my understanding, but I might be wrong, that the laws in California were more strict than they are here in Florida about who can score the skin.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be. But, I mean, when you say the laws, the State Medical Board made a position statement. But if if they're not putting criminals in jail here for robbing people's cars and knocking them over the head and killing them,
it's certainly not going to go after these.
It's unlikely they're going to go after the hair transplant clinics.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So listen, it is what it is. That's why we're still doing what we're doing, and you and I are staying young, Doc. We've been around for a long time. We got to keep doing the best we can to get the information out there.
Yep, I'm trying my best, and I'm just trying to tell people the way it is. I'm honest with people. I don't try and talk people into surgery. I just try and teach people what they should expect if they did the surgery.
Well, Dr. Charles,
I'm not trying to talk people into anything.
I appreciate you, founding member of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. You can find Dr. Charles at IAHRS.org, and I guess it's Charles Medical?
Yep, Charles Medical Group.
Yeah, .com.
Yep, charlesmedicalgroup.com or charleshair.com. These are the same site.
Okay.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for giving me some time on the air here to air out some stuff here. And again, I'm just trying to give people a heads up. Like, I just know it's about the money. But sometimes if you think you're saving so much money, it turns out you're really not. And it's actually causing more harm, and you would have been better off maybe waiting a little longer, saving up some more money, doing it right.
I can tell you that it goes even beyond money. These people they're miserable. I mean, they go into deep, dark places after they realize they got effed up. And they
right. As dark and down as they were because of the hair loss, when they realized that they screwed up and went to the wrong place, think how much more down they are.
Absolutely.
Now they can't even fix it.
All right, brother. Dr. Charles, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Phone number is 888-659-3727. At some point, we're going to allow Joe Tillman to say something on this program.
Are you sure? Like, I'm just.
You had plenty of time to chime in. It's a radio show. I mean, it's not really a radio show anymore, but
I had to do some stuff. Had to step away for a bit. It's okay.
Are you all right? Everything good?
Okay. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's good. Just had to step away.
Those tamales you had last night.
It was the quesadillas.
All right, brother. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
It's Mordy from Brooklyn.
Mordy, what's happening, my man?
Who?
What?
Who?
That guy who used to call in.
Mordy from Brooklyn. Oh, Morty. Hey, man.
It's Mordecai.
How's it going, fellas?
Dude, come on. Look at us. It's going great.
That's what I like to hear. I just wanted to call to wish you both a happy holiday season. Joe, Merry Christmas, and Spencer, a belated Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. How come I don't get a Merry Christmas?
Well.
I like Christmas.
How come I don't get a Happy Hanukkah?
All right.
I'm an American.
All right, y'all. Jeez. Well, happy holidays to both of you then.
Thank you.
Make me get all twisted and not
To both of yous. How New York of you. To both of yous. I like that.
So what's happening then?
Not much, guys. I just figured I'd call in. It's been a little while. I wanted to make sure that you people didn't forget about me. I certainly didn't forget about you guys. I also wanted to remind the listeners that it is thanks to you two gentlemen that I have what has amounted to been a really positive experience from my hair loss journey. My hair is looking great, and it's thanks to you guys. I wanted to make sure that the people who are listening hear that, because I don't know, people might get a different idea. So,
what kind of an idea would they get?
I don't know. Possibly an idea that perhaps if I hadn't spoken to you guys, I would not have gotten a good result. And I think the answer is that's absolutely true. I know for a fact that if I hadn't run into you guys, I would have picked a doctor in Pakistan of all places, because that was the first foray into seeing what a good hair transplant could look like. It was actually my friend Mohammed, whom I met at a job in 2018, and he had an FUT, which was the first time I'd actually seen an FUT with a natural hairline. Before that, when I was in my teens and 20s, I had seen people with mini grafts that looked like somebody had planted corn on top of their heads. Rows and columns of bunches of hair, looked like doll hair. And I remember being, and this is way before my hair loss, but knowing for a fact that my dad was bald, that there was a very good chance I'd be losing it too, that I made a promise to myself that I will not, I'd rather be bald than look like that. And because of that, I basically let the hair go. And when I reached, I was basically in 2018, I was pushing 50 at that point. And I just let it go, and I shaved my head and lived for a number of years, probably a good 15 years with a shaved head. I wasn't crazy about the look, but I wasn't going to do a comb over like my dad did. And
how dare you?
I wasn't going to. Well, Spencer, you, my friend, are very lucky because, and that plus the fact that you use finasteride, you've been able to keep enough hair that your comb over looks acceptable.
Thank you.
My dad.
It's It's acceptable, everyone. Yeah. Morty gives it the thumbs up.
He gives it a thumbs middle.
Yeah.
It's acceptable.
Morty, let me ask you a question. I don't know if we've ever delved into this, but why didn't you get on finasteride? You were younger than me.
Honestly, I didn't know about it until I got on your show and listened to you guys.
How is that possible?
Look, when you're not worried about your hair, you don't research hair chemistry. You don't research hair treatments. I mean, the only thing I knew about hair loss when I first started losing my hair, which was when I was probably about 19 years old, I first started realizing it was hair loss. There was no finasteride. This was 1988, 1989. What there was just minoxidil. That's kind of what there was. And, I didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, and I tried minoxidil for a little while. It didn't seem to do much, and it was costing me an arm and a leg, at least as far as a stupid little 19-year-old with, a job as a stock boy in a health food store was. It just wasn't really something that I could afford. And, when I stopped taking it, I got a mad shed. And it was like, you know what? Fuck it. It's going to keep my hair short and let the chips fall where they may. And, that's kind of how I lived my life until I found out about you guys and I found out about this stuff called finasteride. I got my first prescription from finasteride from an IHRS certified member, Dr. Carlos Wesley. He actually put me on the pill. Actually, is that true? I got onto it about a month or two prior through my urologist. And then after that, I got onto Wesley's topical. That's probably a couple months later. But yeah, I didn't know anything about finasteride before then. Nothing.
If I had known, things would have been very different.
Very different. You may not have needed a hair transplant, or if you did, you could have had a very small procedure, one procedure, and you could have had a completely different life, Morty.
Well, it is what it is. You kind of take the life that you have, not the one that you could have had. Spencer, when did you find out about finasteride, since you're asking the question?
1992.
Okay, see, there you go. So you found out about it about 4 years after I gave up on the hair, on trying to prevent hair loss.
I actually found out that it was, and I just heard rumors about it, okay? But I actually found out that it was being tested in 1994. There was an article in the New York Times, and it looked incredibly promising. And I could not find, so I was looking at it, okay? I originally read something about it, and I think at the time it was called Longevity Magazine. Now you're like, why are we reading Longevity Magazine? It was at my parents' house. So I read about it. And I was like, this looks interesting. Okay, let's see what happens. And then I read the New York Times article, and I found a doctor who's willing to prescribe it, and the rest is history.
Well, that's fantastic. So you were very lucky. Me in '94, what was I doing? I was chasing skirts and trying to figure out what to do with my life, and I didn't have the New York Times or Longevity Magazine at hand. My dad wasn't much of a New York Times reader. As a matter of fact, he didn't really like the Times at all. My mom, well, she just wasn't much of a
I didn't ask for your life story, dude. I just wanted to see why you weren't on the drug, but go ahead.
I was waiting for
that. So Joe, why don't you talk a little bit, man? Tell me what's been going on with you, or if you have any questions for me.
Well, I want to know how you've been, but you've already told us.
Cool.
Did you just get back from down south? Did I see that right?
I did.
Were you were in Brazil?
Yes. So this is important. First of all, for those who are listening, especially young men, getting a hair transplant will not fix your love life. Extremely important piece of information.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my hair looks great. I'm very pleased with it. But, lady situation is still complicated, shall we say. Although it got a whole lot simpler after a few days down south.
Yeah.
So, it's important, guys, that, you want to be confident about the way you look. And if hair loss is something that's going to eat away at your confidence, and I will admit it definitely had an effect on me, it's something that you want to try to address, but know that there's only so many things in life you can control for. You can't really get too much taller, for example. You can't really change your eye color unless you plan on wearing contacts. And while you might be able to work on your hair, it's going to cost time and money and pain.
You know what they call people like you, Morty, that say that you can't get taller and you can't change your eye color? Quitters.
What?
They call you quitters. Because there are people out there right now that are researching leg extensions and they're actually going through them. There are people out there that it's the same kind of people that spend years, trying to break into the labs of these hair research companies, trying to get all these details about something that's going to come out 15 years from now. There are people that want to be taller, just like there are people that want more hair, and they will do anything and everything to do that. Right? They'll do the actual leg extensions, which is crazy. But yeah, I'll call. You're saying that. You can't.
I had two ideas: the mobile hair transplant vans, and I just contacted my attorney about patenting heel implants.
Exactly.
Oh man,
permanent lifts. I'm really surprised that hasn't come to fruition yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. I mean, I remember reading about this.
Surgical club foots.
Yeah.
Gain some height. I like it.
Oh. Yeah, we're all fucked. We're all going to hell. Excuse my language.
I'm not quite as depressed as you, Morty.
To take that direction.
I'm just because it's the important thing. Like I said, though, is that guys who are listening, you are who you are, and you got to love yourself, and you got to do your best to just love yourself. Do your best to make yourself as valuable to yourself as you can. And if there's somebody out there who can recognize that and can love you for who you are, then you're a very lucky person.
And there's always Pornhub.
And there's always Pornhub. Exactly.
Right? Anyway, I don't really have too much more to add. I just wanted to call and let you guys know that I was still kicking and that I still love you guys.
Well, we're glad because we haven't heard from you.
But I was also curious, how's our friend in Atlanta? How's he feeling? How's he doing? What's going on? He's been very, very quiet.
Yeah. Well, he happens to be in the neighborhood. And he's still a busy beaver. You know, he's still doing what he does.
You mean he's sitting right next to you? Is that why you sound
Dude,
uncomfortable?
roll over and give him the phone.
No. No. I am walking through Brooklyn right now.
John, wake up. They want to talk to you.
Yeah, you guys need some more. You need some more material. But
I have to tell you, there has in my 27 years of doing this program, I can't think of a better call or more. I would say content that has brought more visibility to this broadcast, except when we were on Howard Stern, and that's saying something.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Anyway.
I mean, I was just in the New York Times like last week. Nothing compared to the traffic that call from Atlanta gave us.
Jeez, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, everyone loves hearing somebody lose it live.
Yeah, it's true.
Of course.
It is true. Unfortunately. Yeah, you know, it's all bread and circuses, man. It's the fucking Coliseum, you know.
It's only going to get worse, man. Build your walls now, Morty. I'm telling everybody, all my friends.
Well, I certainly hope I count as one of them, Spencer.
You'd be on the outside of my wall, but I'd make sure that you eat. All right, brother.
All right.
I'm just busting your balls. Thank you for the call, man. It's good hearing from you.
Good to hear from you, buddy.
Brother. And both of you have a wonderful holiday season, and take it easy and have a Merry Christmas. And if I don't call you before the New Year, have a Happy New Year. But I might. So
all right, good. I hope you do.
Take it easy.
All right,
take it
sounds
easy.
Good, buddy.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Happy Kwanzaa.
I don't even think they celebrate that anymore. 888-659-3727. I'm trying to figure out what that is. 888-659-3727. We are live. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Eddie from Houston.
Eddie from Houston. What's happening, man?
Hi, you guys. How you doing?
Good.
So I've called in the past regarding my issues with finasteride, and I'm at the point where I'm just considering just getting off finasteride, oral finasteride, and seeing what your opinion is about using topical finasteride.
Well, let's talk about your issues first.
Mm-hmm.
The same issues you were talking about earlier. That I'm having those side effects with a libido, just all dried up, and just like I'm just not having. I just sometimes feel lethargic.
How old are you?
I'm 50. I'm going to be 53.
How long have you been taking it?
Have you tried a 25-year-old? Just kidding, dude.
I don't think it'll help.
Sorry, just remind us how long you've been taking it, what kind of dosage, and how frequent?
Yeah, I've taken it 3 times a week. One for the 5 milligram Proscar, cut it up into 4s, and take it 3 times a week. So about 1.25.
Okay.
And I mean, I had issues with it like within 6 weeks to 2 months after I started, but now it's just getting to the point where, and I've taken it since 7 years now. but now to the point where it's like, okay, there's just, I just want to see what my options are, whether topical or what other options I may have.
Sorry, before we get into that, let's explore this a little bit. So you've been taking it for 7 years. You've been dealing with these side effects for 7 years since you've been taking it?
I know it's increased. It's gradually progressed to where now I'm definitely noticing a difference. It's just,
Okay. Are you exercising on a regular basis? Do you eat right, or are you a fat slob and you don't really take care of yourself, or somewhere in between?
Well, no, I eat well. I exercise periodically, but I don't know. It's like I don't have the energy to want to go to exercise. Something about this medication is just. I got off it for about 2 weeks because I was having like some tenderness and some like pain. I'd called you guys in the past and addressed that issue. I was panicking. I was talking to you about Pulse-Ladino, but now it's like after I got off it for like 2 weeks, I noticed I was feeling better. I was feeling a little bit more energetic. The pain was subsiding.
Okay.
And I started my regular routine again. after 2 weeks. And it's just a subtle progression in just where I'm back to where I originally was, where I just don't want the medication anymore.
When you say a subtle progression, elaborate. What do you mean a subtle progression? Did it take another 6 months for it to come back? Another couple years? What does that mean?
No, it progressed again back to where I'm just not feeling as energetic. I don't have the.
No, I understand that, but how long did that progression back take? Because you got back on it, you got back onto your regular routine, but how long did it take for it to come back?
About a month.
All right. So Dr. Charles is just on at the top of the show, and he said something really interesting, and it reflects the way I felt about topical finasteride in general, depending on the manufacturer, because there are different manufacturers and there's a different consistency to the topical versions depending on where you get it. His concern or his assumption was that there are fewer side effects on patients using topical finasteride because there's less finasteride actually getting into your system topically versus orally. And that makes perfect sense. My issue with it is if you have a lot of hair and you have a formulation of this of any topical, whether it be topical finasteride, topical dutasteride, or some or any of these mixes that also have like maybe minoxidil or whatever. If it's a thicker consistency, you're going to have more of it in your hair than you are on your scalp. Unless you're pretty bald, or unless you have a lot of hair loss, right? So that's another reason why, patients could be having fewer side effects because they're just not getting as much of it in their system. That said, there's also the blood skin or the skin barrier that it has to go through. And what's the delivery mechanism like with these topicals? Again, different topicals will have different delivery mechanisms. Some may be more effective than others. So to say topical versus oral, which is better? Well, for fewer side effects, obviously, just based on the lack of consistency from one medication to the next, topical is going to have fewer side effects due to variations in efficacy that you'll get with from one brand to the next. Generally speaking, you're supposed to get fewer side effects as well. But there's also debatable information about whether it's going to be as effective as oral to begin with. Some people say that it's absolutely just as effective. I got some people saying it's more effective, and I can't disagree because I don't know, because there's so little evidence out there. Like a couple of different doctors I work with have their own topical, and I've seen great results with them. So I don't know. But before going over to a topical, I would encourage you to, again, consider going off the medication and then I would taper back onto it after a few weeks. Once you start feeling better, and then instead of going back onto your regular routine of 3 times a week, maybe try it once a week just to see how you feel. Try that for a month. If you feel fine, then try twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. See how you feel at that level. And if you feel fine at twice a week, maybe stick with that, because you could still get a benefit at twice a week and maybe avoid the side effects or greatly reduced, maintaining higher energy levels. This soreness that you're talking about might not come back, things like that. Find a good balance, because no matter how good a topical may be, it's infinitely more inconvenient to take than an oral version of it. You just pop it and you're done. With topical, it doesn't matter what it is. You got to rub it in your hair. You got to let it dry. You got to go through all these things to deal with it. It's just not as convenient. So I'd try playing with your dosage on the oral first. Try knock yourself off of it first for a couple weeks. When you feel better, consider titrating back up, but start at a much lower frequency. I'm not a doctor, but that's what I think you should consider.
Wait a second.
So
You're not a doctor, and I've had you on the show for how long?
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know.
So what about effectiveness? Because now I'm dropping the dosage.
Well, that's what you're risking. You're of course. Yeah. Well, that's the whole point. You're not your goal is to not have as much of it in your system, and the consequence of that is potentially lower efficacy along with lower side effects.
Or you may need, again, we're both not doctors, but intermittent therapy may also be a key, where you can keep your DHT levels relatively the same, but you're not putting as much drug into your body. So essentially the way the medication works is, even though it has a short half-life, once you've been on it for a long period of time, it takes about 2 days after your last dose for your DHT levels to start to decline again, start to go up again. So my theory has always been, well, I'm probably reducing, maybe 70, 75% of my DHT or 65% of my DHT, more closer to 70, 75 because I use 5 milligram dose of finasteride. So I had no problem kind of like letting it start to drop a little bit and spiking it back up. And that's why I was taking my drug once a week, and now I'm taking it like maybe twice every 10 days. You might want to consider, kind of trying intermittent therapy and see how your body feels, because essentially it has a short half-life. So you're getting it out of your body pretty rapidly, but your DHT levels aren't going back up for at least 2 days after taking it. And it takes 2 weeks before they go back to baseline. Does that make sense?
What do you mean by intermittent therapy? What do you mean by intermittent therapy?
Are you currently taking the drug every day?
No, 3 times a week.
You take it 3 times a week. I didn't hear that. So, all right.
Yeah.
How about forgetting everything I just said? Now, how often do you take it 3 times? So you take it like every other day now?
No, I'm still taking it
He's every other day.
So, yeah. So,
maybe try to do it. Maybe try to do it twice a week and see what happens.
Yeah, I've done that.
Or
I'm just thinking.
Or maybe, and sorry to interrupt you, but there's also the option. And thanks, Nick and Bricks. I had thought of this earlier, but I forgot to mention it. Because you're into your 50s now, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and get off the medication for a few weeks like you did before, but then go have a blood workup done. Go have a blood panel drawn and measured, and chart that with your doctor and see what's going on there, if anything, because you're not a spring chicken anymore, right? I mean, you might have something else going on that's. Because you did say that this got worse over time, over the course of 7 years. In my experience, anyone that has side effects from a DHT inhibitor, they don't tend to increase over such a long period of time. You either have them or you don't.
Don't tell that to the internet, yeah.
And they just kind of continue to be what they are. They don't actually get worse. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to anyone, but that's what I've seen in general with people that have side effects. They don't tend to increase in severity over a long period of time. The way that you're talking about it took 7 years to continue to, slowly increase. That could be just some sort of correlation with your age and the other changes that are going on at the same time. Decreased testosterone, maybe some sort of thyroid changes, iron levels. All these things can lead to, feeling fatigued.
Menopause.
Menopause could be menopause. Menopause.
Yeah. So you're saying take a blood test for what? Before the blood test, what you say about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the blood test?
Okay. Well, the best thing to do is consult your doctor about this. Okay. Go in and say, look, I'm feeling run down. I'm feeling tired. I'm taking this medication I think might be contributing to it. I want to have my blood levels checked. They'll tell you probably, jump off of this for a few weeks so it's out of your system, come back in, and they'll measure your hormone levels. They'll check your iron, check your thyroid, check your vitamin levels like D and all these different things. And they'll let you know if there's something that's maybe out of whack, something that's too low, maybe suggesting supplements or eating particular foods that might be higher in whatever it is that you're looking for. But the whole point of it is to find out what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the problem might be. Talk to your doctor about it. Let them know, and they'll give you suggestions.
Sure.
But they won't know until they do your blood work.
Yeah. Let's say that it is a finasteride. Let's just go with that. What are really my options? If it is that,
I told you.
Topical is no better.
Yeah, I told you your option. That's it. Or you could even. Sorry.
Sorry. I said, let's say I can't take it at all anymore. I mean, it's just too much. Even if once a week, it's just I'm having a reaction to it. It's good.
Yeah. Then ditch it and consider maybe consider oral minoxidil.
Yeah, but I've heard you guys talk about that in the past.
Or you could consider topical finasteride as well, with the understanding that it might not be as effective.
Yeah.
You may not have the side effects, but you may not have the efficacy that you've had over the past 7 years, if you believe it's been working for you. The point is we know finasteride works. We assume it's working for you because you've been taking it for so long.
Yeah.
You're having the side effects, so you want to try to play with that dosage to find the right dosage that's a balance between side effects and efficacy. If you can't find that balance, if you can't get to a point where you can even tolerate once a week, that's fine. You can go ahead and step aside from that and try a topical variation. You're in Houston, so you got access to just about all the popular variations that are available in the country. Some are going to be better than others, but you can do your research on that and try to find what appears to be a reputable brand. Try that for a few months. See if you still have side effects or a different degree or severity of side effects, and play with the dosage on that as well. They're all telling you to take it once a day, maybe do it twice a day. It's all about finding the balance, right? If that doesn't work, then you can maybe try the oral minoxidil. Yeah, topical finasteride, yeah.
Okay. All right, but worst case scenario, let's say I just don't, is there anything else on the market that people are using that's not finasteride or minoxidil that is effective? Because I hear about dutasteride, but I heard that's even worse. So is there anything else out there?
Not necessarily. It's different. I mean, it's a DHT inhibitor, but when patients get side effects from finasteride or dutasteride, it's not necessarily because of the effect of DHT inhibition. It can be simply because of the chemical makeup of the medication. They're two different medications. They don't work the same way. So it could be from that. We don't know. But back in the day when dutasteride was first introduced, that was the go-to when patients did have side effects with finasteride. Oh, having side effects on finasteride? Well, here you go. Here's some dutasteride. Fix you right up. Because the idea back then was that you actually had fewer side effects or a lower probability of side effects with dutasteride than you did with finasteride. Is that still the case? I can't say whether it is or isn't, but I can say that it's not supposed to be worse simply because of the way that it's, because of the chemical makeup. It's not the same thing as finasteride. The argument is, well, it's reducing more DHT in your system, therefore you're going to have more side effects. No, not necessarily. That's not. It's not one and the same. It doesn't work like that. So it's something to consider, and that is something that you would definitely want to start once a week or even once every 2 weeks because of the fact that it does have a much longer half-life. You got to play with the dosage to find that balance. But I would actually try the oral minoxidil before I would the dutasteride.
Okay. So oral minoxidil is still a good option versus, I know people use it for their scalp, like as a topical.
Mm-hmm.
Or they use that in conjunction.
Well, if you do some research on this, if you do some reading on this, you'll find that oral minoxidil is the preferred method of application now for minoxidil as opposed to topical among leading doctors, among the doctors that you hear about. They're all prescribing oral minoxidil 2.5 to 5 milligrams, depending on the doctor, more so than they are topical. When you see topical minoxidil, it's usually mixed with finasteride or dutasteride as a cocktail.
And don't take both. Don't take oral and. I mean, can you take oral minoxidil and oral finasteride? Is that recommended at all?
A lot of doctors recommend that, but you're trying to get away from finasteride, so that's not something I would think that you'd want to do.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe if I even tapered off on the finasteride and took oral minoxidil in conjunction with it at a lower dosage. But I mean, I'll start. I'll start from what you advised me at first, and go from there.
All right, brother. I think I know that it's stressful. And I know that you are, suffering, dealing with this, and you've done so well as far as hair-wise on finasteride for so long. The one thing we didn't ask is, are you taking brand name?
Yeah, the ProScar. I'm taking the ProScar.
I mean, I normally wouldn't say this, but it's also possible that, finding a good generic could benefit you in some way. I don't know. That's a risk, though. But I have seen the opposite effect with people who've, for some reason, had adverse side effects with ProScar, which is actually a lot more rare than with generics. But then they get on like a Teva generic and they seem to do fine. So it's just your body's makeup. Yeah, I would take Joe's advice, and I would see, you're already doing intermittent therapy. I would continue. I would consider trying to lower your dosage, like you said, you've tried already. But talk to your doctor, get all your blood work done. See if there's any deficiencies. Check out your testosterone levels. I mean, it could be something as simple as, you are getting older and things are changing. Your hormones are changing. Look, man, I'm older than you. And while, not everyone could be a specimen like me and Joe, I'm just kidding. I definitely feel changes. Now, luckily, I don't attribute anything to finasteride. I feel pretty good in that department, but I feel, I have a little less energy at times. Maybe it's patience instead of energy. I can't tell a difference at this point yet. But, shit happens and shit changes. I'm not saying that it's not the finasteride, but I think having a better overall picture of your health and your blood work is very important.
Yeah.
All right, Matt?
So good. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Feel better. Try to have a happy holiday.
Right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Good luck, man.
You guys too. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
It makes me want to have a drink.
It really does.
A
fine peaty scotch.
I haven't had a drink in probably It's been a long time, actually. It's probably maybe September, beginning of September.
It's been, yeah. But it's that time of year, man. It's a season.
Well, it was after a phone call with the Atlanta guy at one point, a private phone call. I'm like, you know what? I can't drink. I don't want this to happen to me.
I don't want to wind up calling a radio show.
I do not need potential early onset issues.
Yeah.
But no, I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to drink. You know, it's kind of like I was getting bored with it. Like I'd go out, it's like, oh, let's meet for drinks. Okay, I'll meet for drinks. And you meet some broad for drinks, and you're having drinks, and all of a sudden they're telling you how their husband fooled around on them, but they got him back by keying their car. The normal stuff that you deal with as an old bachelor. By the way, I was essentially married for 20 years.
In DB in the chat room, we're not prescribing anything because we're not doctors, but I recommend it for anyone that can't take finasteride. I don't take it myself because finasteride's fine for me. If I couldn't take finasteride, I'd be all over it.
I'm reading the comment now. That is such an online social media type of comment. It's just like aggressive with the LOL and, is essentially not even close to being true. But I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes this fun.
Bring it on.
It looks like are we having problems with the feed? No, we're here. Guys, 888-659-3727. I know you want drunk Spencer back, but, I've just been bored with drinking. Now, today I'm kind of thinking like maybe I go to my little Italian restaurant I enjoy. There's always some nice, socializing to be had there. And I have to sit there and have a martini. But then it ends up being 2. And then I wake up in somebody's hot tub. But thank God I wake up.
Good thing you wake up. It's not from ketamine.
Yeah, Matthew Perry wasn't so lucky.
Yeah.
We have time for another call, I think, right, Joe? Let's see who this is.
Yeah.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys, this is Matthew from Washington State. How you guys doing?
Matthew, man, how are you?
Hey,
We're
Matthew.
good.
What's
Excellent.
up, man?
How do you guys feel about some feedback from a topical from one of your preferred doctors? Is that okay, or is that allowed?
No, we don't allow any possible negativity about any doctor that is part of what we do.
And tell everyone on Reddit we said that.
Yeah. Go for it, dude. That's what the show's about.
So I'm on the topical from a certain doctor in Texas, and I've been on it for probably 3 years. And it's amazing. I just started listening a few minutes ago, so I'm probably piggybacking on the last caller. But yeah, it is very difficult to apply it because I still have a lot of hair, and I'm just wondering if it's I order it 3 times a year. No, 4. $1,200 a year. Every time I get my order, it's a different packaging. It's a different, application style. It has a different scent. It's almost like it's just different every time. The crown looks amazing. It looks, I think I'm seeing progress there. Not so much up front and where the recession is. And I'm just wondering at this point if it's a good idea to go to an oral finasteride and an oral minoxidil.
Well, here's the thing. I'm assuming I know who the doctor in Texas is, but I think it's important that you tell me, because
Naker.
Okay, so I know that there has been some changes in what he's been doing over the years. So that's why the scent could be different. There could be some, certain. I'm not going to say conducting experiments, but trying to improve the product. But I will say that most people like yourself seem to say that they have continued progress, good positive progress. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that things look different and that it's not something that has been kind of like whether you're, I don't know if there's a newsletter involved or whatever it is, but I do think consumers should be told, hey, you know what? You're getting your product this month, but it's coming in our updated packaging, just so they don't freak out. You know? So, I think that's important that you told us that. All right, so you're seeing results, but you're not seeing anything in the hairline.
No, in fact, the front part is losing density, and I'm probably about a year away from surgery, and it could also just be a lousy haircut. Who knows? But I just am wanting to make sure that if there is a more effective option out there that isn't $1,200, that would allow more room to continue saving for the procedure, and it'd be more efficient. And I just wanted to get your take on that.
What about, have you considered taking the pill, oral minoxidil, oral finasteride?
I took oral finasteride for about a year. I had some initial side effects that really freaked me out, but then the side effects went away. And then I found out through you guys about Dr. Yaker and had a consult and switched to the topical, and even had a follow-up and sent pictures a year later. And I actually messed up on the second shots because I guess my hair was too damp. And he said, dry your hair and take pictures and send them back. And then I looked at them and I compared them, and it was incredible. It really was different.
Well, it works.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. It's just it's messier. So I suppose I've answered my own question, but
But were you seeing are you seeing positive results on oral finasteride?
I've never taken oral finasteride. I took oral finasteride. I didn't take it long enough, I don't think, to see results. It wasn't the same as after a year of the topical. After a year of the topical, it looked like two different heads.
Right. All right. Okay. So you responded well to Dr. Yaker's topical. That's great. But you don't know if you would have responded well to oral finasteride because you weren't on it long enough.
No, I was on it long enough to have some side effects, and then I didn't really see a lot of results with topical.
Right, how long were you on it? Let's cut to the chase. How long were you on it?
The minoxidil?
No, the oral finasteride.
Oh, about 6 months.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. If the topical is working for you and you had such great results with the topical, that probably means that if you were taking legit oral finasteride, that in time you would have seen similar results, if not possibly better results. The thing about taking it orally is that you are systemically suppressing DHT, and it's blocking 5-alpha reductase type 2. So all of your hair follicles are going to be affected by it. Applying something topically, it's a lot more difficult to get all of your hair follicles, obviously. So I'm assuming, though, that you're putting it in your frontal hairline because you're concerned about that, right?
Yeah, as directed. I put a certain number of drops in basically 3 key areas, and I apply it as best I can per the instructions. And it's
well, you're obviously applying it correctly on your crown, and you may be applying it correctly on the front. Even with oral finasteride or Propecia, gaining hair in the front, in the hairline, is not, it can happen. And I've known guys who've had tremendous results in the front. But normally what it can do is maybe stop the progression of hairline recession. But you're also a good responder to the topical, so you may not have seen anything positive from oral finasteride. So I guess my thing is, you're asking to make a switch. Is there anything that you should do? My first thought was to try or talk to your doctor about taking oral finasteride. You've already had adverse effects that were transient, and you also didn't see results in 6 months. I don't know what else you could really do except, add something like oral minoxidil. But I would not stop doing the topical finasteride because there's a good chance you're going to go through a serious telogen effluvium or shed that may not be recoverable or will take a very long time to recover. So unless you're ingesting the finasteride, meaning unless you're taking the same drug, in my view, you might be able to wean off using oral finasteride as well, or oral minoxidil as well. There's a chance once you remove the topical that you're going to go through a shed. You're not going to be happy about that. So saving a few bucks, I don't know if it's going to be of any benefit to you. I don't know, Joe, what do you think?
Okay. If you're having such a great result, or I'll say such a result in the crown to where it looks, to use your words, it looks like a different head because there's so much more hair, I would change fuck all as far as that goes. I would not touch it.
Joe Tillman.
And then dealing with the front. This is one of those rare situations where I would consider, after talking with Dr. Yaker, a topical minoxidil as an application for that area. See what that does. Have you talked to Dr. Yaker?
It's a combination of both, actually.
Yeah, but are you okay? So have you talked to him about your continued progression in the front?
I haven't, no. I've been a little bit more careful to add some more drops in that area and try to distribute it a little bit better and just paying more attention to it. But as you guys probably know, that solution is a combination of
I didn't think about that. Yeah. I would talk to him about it and see what he recommends because he may say up the application, like the number of drops like you've been doing, but go even further. It's tough because a lot of people that take any sort of medication, topical, oral, dutasteride, finasteride, whatever, they will have a good result in one area but not so much in another, and they're kind of stuck. What's the answer? And that's where you get a lot of guys that turn to surgery because the back, which is arguably more difficult to deal with surgically, is fine because of the medication. Time to look at going under the knife. A lot of people look at it like that. Our position on it. Surgery's the last resort. Try everything else. So the question is, well, what is everything else? You're taking finasteride topically. You're taking minoxidil topically. Maybe add something else to it. But no matter what you might add to your routine, be it another medication, be it some sort of low-level laser light therapy situation, anything, PRP, anything can induce a telogen effluvium, and then you're like, scratching your ass going, what the hell did I do this for? Now it looks worse. And it might come back. It probably will come back, but it feels like shit when it doesn't. It feels like shit in between. Like even if it does come back, you got that 3, 4, or 5 months where you're like really upset that you even did it because your hair's thinned out. Nothing may happen. You may not have that kind of reaction. And on top of that, you may not get any sort of added benefit. The front might not be affected positively by anything else that you do, and that's when you look at surgery. But you got to try. And the question is, or you don't have to try, but you have to consider it because the question is, well, what's the downside? What if I do try oral minoxidil? What if I do try PRP or something like that with exosomes or whatever? Those things can help. I've seen them help, specifically in the hairline. But do you want to risk it? Do you want to try it? It's something only you can answer. But I would talk to Dr. Yaker, see what he says about changing the medical route, adding something to it, and just go from there. Like it's not an easy answer. Just see what he says.
No, that makes total sense. I mean, if it weren't for you guys, I mean, I'm considering things and thinking about things differently throughout this process than I did 5-10 years ago. And I'm looking at family photo albums and I'm going, maybe there's some people that these guys know that regardless of intervention, they're going to lose their hair and that's the end of it. And I'm in my early 40s and I'm giving it, a little bit more time. And once I get to that mid 40s, if it doesn't get super aggressive, then I think surgery is an option. But I like playing with this option right now because it's non-surgical. And you guys have had a lot of conversations with people about, do you want to waste another surgery on fixing a scar? It might stretch, it might not. And I just really appreciate putting all these seeds in our heads, no pun intended, because I think it's actually easy to just swipe a card and buy surgery, but it is. As you say, Spencer, once you're cut, you're cut. And I really appreciate that because it's very helpful in me not making a snap decision.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I think you said something that I think is it's pretty. It's something that kind of goes over most people's heads. And when I try to tell people this, they don't want to believe me, and they're like, "What do you know, brah?" Especially these young guys. I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I just put this information out there. But there are people who, no matter what they do, they're not going to be helped. That's it. They will be bald. They could throw the kitchen sink at it, and they're not going to be able to stop the process. Now, you're not one of those people at this point because you've already seen results. But you may not have the results that you want for a long period of time. You may just be able to maintain a strong crown, maybe mid-anterior scalp, and have a recessed hairline that you do have to eventually fill in. But the longer you wait and the more hair you save, including your donor, the better off you are. So now you're in your early 40s, maybe you'll be able to live till 70 with a good-looking head of hair or a full-looking head of hair, even better than you have today. The kids that start in their 20s will not have that opportunity. That's it. All right, man.
Well, I appreciate you guys and happy holidays. Thank you for everything, and I'll keep you guys posted.
Thanks, man. Good luck.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Take it easy.
You bet. Later.
I love the guys who call and they're sheepish about, telling something, that they may construe as being possibly negative about one of the doctors that are either part of the IHRS who work with you. You could say whatever you want. That's the whole point of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the really interesting news. And let's just talk about dollars and cents because everyone's like, well, they don't want to lose members or, their membership dues or whatever it is. 10 members can leave tomorrow and they can be replaced with 10 new members that are waiting in the wings. That's the way it works. That's not to sound obnoxious. That's how many people in the industry want to be associated with what we do. Not just because we're such great guys.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, Joe's a great guy. But it's valuable to them to be associated with what we do. Also, basically because of the time on tissue, the organizations, and, everything else. Now, there's a large group of guys who they may believe in our philosophy and they want to be associated with us, but right now they're not ready. That's just the way that it works. That's why I love when guys like Cole, whoever, talk about pay-per-play services. We're the furthest thing from that. Just like any other society, you want to be listed on a website, you have to pay your dues. You want to be listed on the AMA's website, you got to pay your AMA dues. You want to be listed on, the American Academy of Dermatology's website, pay your dues and your picture's on there. That's why I think it's such a ridiculous argument for the guys that are getting their asses handed to them or kicked out or whatever to say that. It's a joke.
Well, it's because they got nothing else to say.
Yeah.
That's all they got to fall back on.
You want to, whatever, society, trade organization, whatever, is everyone pays a fee. You want to belong to a country club? You got to pay. I don't know. That's a bad analogy, but you know what I mean. 888-659-3727. We're going to take one last call, Joe, and I may have a martini tonight. I don't know. Here's the thing, though. If I start chatting up with somebody, it ends up being, it could be two or three, and then I can't train tomorrow the way that I like to. And that's why I'm not really. I like to be able to get to the gym and work out and be strong and, not age like a lot of our contemporaries are falling apart, who are getting,
I get it,
their heads tattooed and everything. Let's see who this is.
You actually have pictures of them on your walls, don't you?
Of what? All these guys?
Motivation.
It's on my fridge. You know how like fat chicks, am I allowed to say that? You know how like fat chicks have pictures of models on their fridge?
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, even not fat chicks, even girls who just believe that they don't look good. Let me tell you something. That's a red flag. When I walk into someone's house and they have a vision board of hot chicks, check, please.
A vision board.
And I'm not talking about Mordy's house. Let's see who this is. I'm not talking about shrines. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, caller, what's up?
Hey, this is Matt.
Matt, where are you calling from, man?
Oh my goodness, I got through. Hey guys, I'm Matt. I'm calling from Burlington, Ontario, just outside Toronto.
Well, welcome, Matt. What can we do for you?
What's up, man?
Oh my gosh, I'm thrilled I got through.
Not as thrilled as we are.
Caller. First time caller. Been listening to you guys since about 2015.
Wow.
And 42 years old. And I really never thought I would actually call into the show, but here I am. And I'm just calling to, first and foremost, thank you guys for just all of the information and all of the warnings and just everything that's out there with hair transplant surgeries and medications. And because just like everybody else on this show, it's been a whirlwind of emotions and just trying to figure out what the hell to do.
I totally understand that, and I appreciate what you're saying. But how's my hair look today?
Yeah, thank you.
Your hair looks amazing.
Thank you. All right. Now we'll answer your question.
The reason why I'm calling more than anything, I took the plunge and I shaved my head about 5 years ago.
All right.
And when I first did it, I thought, this is the end. My life is over. And, this is it. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. It honestly took me about a good year to, feel comfortable with it. And then after about that point, just getting back to work and going to the gym and keeping myself in shape and just making sure everything else in my life was balanced. It couldn't have been there couldn't have been a better thing that I would have done for myself than shaving my head. And it just kind of made me realize that there's a whole lot more to your looks than hair. And, if I could choose to have a head full of hair, I would, obviously.
Sure.
But at this point, I look in the mirror and I friggin' like it a lot.
I love
and I feel like it gives me an edge. For you. And, I just make sure that I dress nice, I go to the gym, I eat right. And I guess the biggest thing for me, if anybody else is, I'm sure people are listening, but I guess the one thing about it that is still a little hard is when I meet people that I haven't seen for a while for the first time, and they were used to me having, a fake full head of hair because I did the comb over, I did the topic fibers and all that stuff.
All right, listen, you're offending me now.
It's a little embarrassing at first, right? But honestly, it's a whole lot bigger in my mind than it is in anybody else's. And, I still have to
100%. That's well said. That's very well said.
But, like people are getting surgeries, cheek implants, hair implants, butt implants. They're on steroids, this and that. I mean,
I will tell you that every kid now, almost every kid who is in the gym now, it's crazy that they're on. I've never seen. Listen, I've exercised most of my adult life since I was a teenager, and there were guys who were taking drugs, for sports and stuff like that, and some guys just for looks. I could never imagine it being as prevalent as it is. Like if you're 17 or 18 years old now and you're working out, you're taking some shit.
And look at the social media, right? Like it's horrible, right? I mean, like even, being a well-educated adult, you hop on YouTube to type in a video and you get onto the YouTube shorts. I mean, you're just seeing, it's very easy to see how people are influenced, by, what the Kardashians are doing.
The addiction is so insane. First of all, here in Los Angeles, if you're in a condominium or whatever it is, people in Los Angeles don't know how to use elevators to begin with. I've never seen anything like it. Especially if it's an elevator that doesn't have buttons and it's, you have like an access card that, it tells you like whatever, elevator A or C, and people just stand in front of the elevator and they don't realize that people may be coming out of it, number one. But number two, kids, and I'm talking about in their 20s even, don't even say hello to anybody, and they're just stuck in their phones.
Yep.
And if you step back, I was at the car wash the other day. I took a picture. I sent it to my buddy, a kid I grew up with. And it was a mixture of older people, younger people, all different races. I mean, it was a busy day. And everyone was just looking at their phones. I would love to be able to post that, but I don't want to embarrass anybody. But that is our world today. And I have to tell you, for the young guys who are listening, anyone who chooses not to fall for that addiction, but maybe leverage it, they're 10 steps ahead of everybody else. They will crush it if they don't get addicted to that fucking phone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... Anyway, I'm going to keep the call short because I know you guys have...
I really hope you do. I didn't want to say anything.
Anyway, listen, I just want to let you guys know that, like, honestly, in 2015 and 16, I was very, very depressed, and I was at my wit's end. And my son was like 1.5 years old. I was like, oh my God, I'm a dad, and I'm worried about this bullshit. What am I going to do? And I was ready to take the plunge. And you know what? I just thought, and Spencer, I've got to give this to you. I thought, like, you know what? 5 years from now, if this shit doesn't work, and I look like Frankenstein, let's be honest, like, my life is over. So, and that's a tough thought to, those are hard thoughts to come to grips with. But like, I finally said, you know what? Enough covering it up. Enough hiding who I am. And if people don't like it, pardon my French, they can go fuck themselves. But this is the way God made me. And honestly, the shaved head, I do it once every 2 days. I bought one of those Babyliss Pros. Takes 2 minutes in the morning, and I've gotten quite a few compliments on it. And you're better off owning your shit. That's all I can say.
What happened to making this short, dude? Now, listen. First of all, I want to tell you that I really appreciate what you're saying. And I'm glad that you found us and we were able to help you. I have these guys, and they're not really super trolls or anything, but a couple of younger guys. I had this guy, he's funny. You know, we kind of throw barbs at each other online just a little bit. And I posted something on Instagram about finasteride, and I also post about Turkish hair transplants and stuff like that. This guy has had a Turkish hair transplant, and he didn't do well on finasteride, so he disagrees with just about everything that I say. And I mean, I'm sure he's a decent guy, and you know, but he's so adamant. Like, you know, there's such confirmation bias as far as his experience is concerned. And he needs the world to know that I'm wrong about this particular issue. But when I look at this guy, I'm like, yeah, he said something interesting. He wrote something interesting. He said, because I said that his naivete is kind of coming through his comments, but I was trying to be nice. And he says, yeah, you know, if I was old, what do you say? If I had old ways, or if I thought in an old manner, whatever it is, or outdated manner, and something else, I would call the young buck naive as well. Basically, A, calling me old, B, saying I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and it's C, that, you know,
he was old-splaining you.
Yeah, he was old-splaining me, exactly. Well said, Joseph. And I'm just like, listen, dude, thanks for taking the time, you know, to add to the discussion. And that's it. You know, I said something else. I guess my point is, my hope is that this guy doesn't contact us in 5 years, if we're still doing the show, which we probably will be, sadly, and say, you know what, Spence, you're right. I don't want that to happen to this kid, because he's a good-looking guy. He's super built. He's probably on TRT, just saying. He's in his mid-30s. I think he served our country. And I think he probably is a good guy. I could just tell, you know, he's a decent guy. But he's adamant about it. He doesn't realize that every comment that he makes, that some young guy reads, and they say, wait a second, this guy looks good. I mean, he kind of looks good. I mean, I would see his hairline from a mile away, but whatever. For the most part, no one can tell. He's sending people, just by commenting on what we're putting out there, he's sending people down the wrong path. And that's that really bugs me. But, you know, I'm not going to stifle his speech, obviously, and I think that he seems like a reasonable guy, but he's so adamant about it. And he has no idea that even if he's one of the lucky ones, he's maybe one of the 10% that will get away with it. The rest of the young guys will be fucked.
If there's one thing I can say to young guys that are listening, and I know that there are a ton of them, and I know from my own experience, this is it. When you're young and you are losing your hair, and I think this is a Christmas time thing for me, because I would never call your show. I'm a very introverted person. If you're young and you're
I couldn't tell that, man. I'll tell you that.
But if you're young, honestly, guys, and you're losing your hair, this is coming from the deepest depths of my heart right now at Christmas time. I know it sucks, and I know you're spending nights, Friday nights and Saturday nights away from your friends, and you're like, what the fuck am I going to do? Sorry for the F word, but when you get a little bit older, it becomes a whole lot easier, and you do not want to fuck your shit up for the rest of your life for the sake of, 3, 4, or 5 years. Get through it the best way you can, if you can. Topic, minoxidil, thickener, whatever, hairstyle. Once you get into your mid-30s, alcohol works as well. But once you get in your mid-30s, you know what? And you know what? If you're going to the gym and you got a good job, you got a lot of things to be proud of, you know what? You got to take a step back and say, you know what? Wait, this is holding me back. Get rid of it. Learn to live with it for a bit. And then, just like anything in life, things that are hard get easier. And honestly, I never thought I would have been able to live a life with a shaved head. But to be completely honest now, I completely embrace it. And I'm almost at the point now where I'm like, I don't even know if I would want hair, because it almost makes me feel more in command.
It's like that's your new superpower, yeah. I think it's great.
Well, like you said, if you can walk around in public like that, and it's not a big deal, but if you can make it not a big deal in your own head, you can own it. It's like almost like.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you this. I refuse to make that happen at this point in my life. I am in hiding. I walk around. You said something interesting. How this is me, and whatever. Fuck that. For me, at this point, I'm dealing with the comb over and the paint. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be for the rest of my life. I don't know. But right now, that's how I choose to present myself to the world. And I think, obviously, you have a more. Well, I think we're free, and we're both free in our own, in our own way. I speak about it all the time, so I expose myself to the world.
Well, that's the thing. You own it, right? If you can own it, then, that's the beauty, right?
Yeah.
If you own it, that's it.
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to say what you said and to call us, and I'm glad we were able to help you. I'm going to say one thing before Joe falls asleep on his desk. One last thing. There are kids out there who are listening to this or who'll see this clip if I put it on Instagram or whatever it is, and they're going to be like, you could be Jesus Christ himself saying this, and their comment would be, whatever, who is his asshole? That's just the way these kids are. That's the way these kids are. I never thought that I would say this about different generations, whatever it is. I don't think it's a generational divide. I think this particular generational divide was kind of amplified by social media and the internet. And it's really sad because these kids are just so lost. They're willing to just jump into the fire. They have no idea that they are destroying their lives. And you can't even talk half these guys out of it.
Well, to those kids, you know what? This is all I ask them. We're talking to the guys, obviously. When you're at the gym, you see a girl that looks cute. She's got some pimples on her face, and she's got maybe a little bit too much.
She's got a big ass
on her body, but you think she looks hot. Remember that, you know what? When they're looking at you, and you've got a nice body, and you got pretty good skin. Yeah, you're missing a bit of hair.
Yeah, they're thinking I wonder how much money he makes.
You know what? It's human attraction, and we get so caught up in these. We get caught up in these things, and I know the hair loss thing, it really is, like you said, it is a disease of the soul because I lived it for many years. But once you can get over it, you know what? Life is good, and it's a mindset. That's all I can say.
Well, brother, I appreciate it. I could see you're a real student of the bald truth, and I'm glad that you found this. And I think your message is very profound, and hopefully it impacts some guys who are about to jump into surgery, and they really should consider at least trying to shave their heads.
And Joe, the one thing I can say is this: if somebody would have guaranteed me 5 years ago that I could have had a result like yours, then I would have done it. Okay, but I was so scared. I remember being at Tim Hortons line, and the guy in front of me had a Frankenstein scar on the back of his head and a bald top. And, I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad for him because I knew what he was trying to do.
That was Joe.
And,
yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
That was Joe at one point in his life.
Well, what I'm saying is, Joe, your hair looks amazing, and congrats on that. And
Thank you.
I don't know. I think you might be an anomaly because everything I see online, and I feel like you're playing Russian roulette. So, guys, thank you so much. I don't want to take any of your time.
Too late. All right, brother.
For taking my time, and I really appreciate it.
All right.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Thanks for calling, man. Merry Christmas.
Take it easy.
Thanks for all your help. Eh? You guys
right.
really saved me.
Take care.
You guys helped me dodge a bullet. Take care.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Thank you. That was nice.
It was very nice.
Good
Guys, I'm not gonna take any more calls because Joe is he's literally passing out on the air.
For those of you that are listening as opposed to watching, I am not literally passing out. Just because I'm laying here on the desk on my side doesn't mean I'm actually passing out.
He's rubbing his eyes and yawning like a 3-year-old.
I did not yawn once. Not once.
You don't even know. Tell the producer to play the tape back. Oh, wait a second. That's me.
The producer. That's good.
All right, guys.
Watch
I
the
mean,
replay.
we're not going to take another call, are we, Joe?
No, you got to go.
Okay. Joe's got to go. You see that? I would have taken the call. I would have taken the call.
Got to do some Christmas shopping.
Joe's got to do some stuff because he's a procrastinator. He's waiting to the 21st. Today's 21st, 22nd to do his Christmas shopping. You know when I did my Christmas shopping?
February.
December 26, 2023.
December 20. Yes. I get it. So I bought my Christmas tree.
Nice. All right, guys. We're going to, hold on. Got to hang up on you, brother. Sorry. All right, guys. Listen, great show. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. I think we're still allowed to say that in America, right?
Vaguely.
Look.
Yeah, you can still say it.
I am not a Christmas person, so to speak, if you know what I mean. I don't want to get killed. Yeah, I don't want to get killed. But we celebrate other things around this time of the year. But I do love the holiday season. I love Christmas. I was always jealous of you people.
What do you mean, you people?
Always jealous of you people with the Christmas. It was just a cooler holiday. The colors are better, everything. You got Santa Claus.
You got the Christmases, and you're allowed to get into any place you want, and all that stuff.
I got to tell you, when I was younger, and I was living in New York, and this is when I was still single. I was pretty young. Christmas Eve. That was if you wanted to get laid, you can go drinking. Christmas Eve, man. These women were just, they were sad. They were really, something went wrong that they're in a dive bar on Christmas Eve. It's fucking great.
It's such predatory conduct.
I miss those days. Listen, sue me. You know what I mean? It's reality.
That's awesome.
We were sad too, and you know what?
On you.
I was the prey. Okay, how do you like that, Joseph?
Yeah, I was gonna say the cougars are out.
Let's be honest, and that's not being obnoxious. It goes both ways. Anyway,
of course.
Until next time, be strong. God bless. Thank you guys so much for listening, and again, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Can we stop this charade?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad